I extend a very warm welcome to all the viewers to yet another episode on the Soul to Soul talk show. Continuing with the journey with Brother Ken Odonel, we will be sharing a few more experiences about his life and his childhood and his spiritual journey after meeting with the Brahma Kumaris. Before that, let's welcome Brother O'Kennel. Brother, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Pleasure to be here.
Pleasure's ours too. Brother, you were saying in the previous episode how your family had a lot of tranquility in it, and you were brought up in a strict Orthodox Christian sort of an atmosphere. So did that influence you to say, read scriptures from different religions? Did that make you a religious person?
No, the thing is that I wouldn't say that they were very strict. My aunties certainly were.
Okay.
But my mother, when I was 15 years old, she had a hysterectomy operation. And she, I would say, she died 4 or 5 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only thing I can say. And somehow or the other they revived her. And then she described what she went through, and she was a completely changed person after that. And she had this experience of leaving the body, which sometimes happen when people have an accident or,
right.
they leave and they're dead for 3 minutes or 5 minutes. And so she had this experience that she described later on, that I could see everything. I could see the doctors trying to revive. She had a rare blood group, and they had problems with a transfusion.
Mm-hmm.
And so she left the physical body. And she described that the doctors were trying to revive her heart.
Mm-hmm.
And she could see the whole scene as if she was floating away. And so her consciousness is floating away, watching the operation.
Okay.
And on the other side there's some light pulling her.
Mm-hmm.
And so should I go this way or should I go back this way? In that dilemma, she comes back.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, she had no fear of death. For example, imagine you die and you come back and say what it's like to die. Because she was officially dead for a few minutes. Like there was no signs, there was no signals, there was no heart activity, no brain activity. And she came back. And then after that, she was a completely transformed person. And I was only 15. I started to think, wait a minute. If there's something that can leave the body and observe what's going on, first of all, it has to be conscious. And secondly, there has to be some sort of a vision, some sort of a way of seeing things. So what is it that leaves the body? So that was a big question for me. And she became, I would say, she was so transformed by this that when she finally passed on, no one could cry at her funeral. No one. Everyone was, what's the point? It had been put into us that there's some energy that continues after death. So that we grew up, and my younger brothers and sisters especially, they grew up knowing that there's something that survives death. What that is, who knows? So that was a very important thing for me, because I guess I could trace my curiosity to understand deeper things to that moment.
And did you have any goals as a child? What did you want to grow up to become?
I really didn't have an idea. I wasn't concerned either. For me, life was a big adventure, and whatever would come my way would be okay. I had a very liberal, as I say, education. I wasn't really much into relationships with girls and things like that. I was more of a studious type, let's say, more philosophical. That university also became involved in the movement against the war in Vietnam, which was just ending actually at that time. And it was a big problem for Australia because many Australians were killed in the war, and the university students were all, you know. So I became involved a little bit in very extreme left-wing politics. But then I became disenchanted with that because I could see that within the party there were the same sort of struggle between the party and the other parties. So the different factions of the party would you know, hate each other the same way that they hated the other party. So I don't want to know about this. So I got out of that. So I really I couldn't say that I had some very clear goals, no. I just wanted to understand what it was, what was this thing that survived death.
Did you have any desires to serve the society, become a social activist?
Not really. I could say that I was always like, if I saw some person in a difficult circumstance, I would always give something or take something and give them some clothes or something like that. But I wasn't consciously involved in social activism, no. I suppose if I were growing up these days, I would be probably a big environmentalist. But in those days, it wasn't such a big issue.
And what about your teenage days? Were you? How did you make it like enjoyable, or did you find it any days? Were there any situations that made you feel lonely, empty?
No, I wouldn't say that. I felt that I was different.
Okay. How?
Because I was deeper, I suppose. I really couldn't get into parties, for example.
Okay.
And, I couldn't see the sense of sitting around drinking and just talking about, you know, stupid things. And I didn't want to be judgmental either. You know, I wouldn't say I was ever frivolous in that sense. But I was in a band also, so I like to play music, and so, but it was like a different sort of alternative band. It wasn't a normal rock band, for example. It was more different sort of music. So a little bit adventurous, as I said before.
But did this philosophical side, did it disturb? Did it like affect the friendship? Did you?
No, not at all.
No.
In fact, I was seen to be someone. Many of my friends came to me for advice, for example. I don't know why, if I had any good advice to give, but many people came to me for advice as if I was something that could, you know, I had a deeper angle on things. So I was very popular, I would say. Everyone was friendly towards me.
And brother, you said you came in contact with the Brahma Kumaris at the age of 21. And that is quite a young age to take up a deep philosophical knowledge like that is taught here.
Yeah, but I think I was prepared because I started really getting into the search when I was 15. So I was really quite prepared. You know, I could understand, for example, the daily classes which are called murlis here. I didn't even do the introductory course, to be quite honest. The first day I came to the centre, I came into what they call murli, first day. And I have not done the course until now.
What about the principles that are followed here? Did you?
Yeah, I was already following them.
You were already a vegetarian?
No, but also I was following Raja Yoga Patanjali deeply, and it's the same principles, all of them.
So you had no difficulty at all in the transition?
No, not
but
at all.
In fact, there was no transition in your lifestyle?
No, I didn't feel any transition. But the big thing was that I understood what is this thing that survives death, which is me, the soul. You know, that was the big difference, because until then I had no idea that I, the thinking being, the one who's looking through the eyes, the one who's listening through the ears, the one that's speaking through the mouth, in fact is a spiritual energy. I thought the soul was something else, different from the mind, for example, which Patanjali and other sages would teach. But I understood that the mind is a fact. And these things were very important for me, maybe not for many people, but to understand that the mind is a faculty of the soul itself was a huge discovery for me, and not different. So that means I'm the thinking being. I think. It's not the mind is some other thing. It's me. It's the way I operate when I'm interacting with this physical world. I have to use thoughts, and I have to associate things. So the intellect, the buddhi, right? I have to. So this is me here in this world, and that was fundamental for me. Many things fell into place just from that point.
And what are the relations you experience with God now that you're on this journey?
I would say more than anything, it's like companionship. Of course, you can see the aspect of the father and how you looked after, and the aspect of the teacher, and how you get these jewels of knowledge that have been revealed through Prajapita Brahma. You get the guidance, this is the way you should do, and this is the way you shouldn't do. That's very clear, but in practice it's more companionship. Because I have to do a lot of things together with God. And so how can you not be a companion? But I really feel that I'm a brother to a lot of other people, and I'm the opposite of bossy sort of person. I really make sure that the people are in front, especially in that part of the world. I'm a foreigner, right? So the local people should be doing the things, and I make sure that they're okay and happy. That's all I have to do. And in that I have to have this companionship, because I'm the instrument, not of my own ego, but of God, right?
And what are the feelings that you get in his companionship? Like, do you feel it real, like a real companion? How do you feel his presence?
I think when something's happening, either I get the insight in the meditation what to do, and it becomes very clear, or in the next day, in the next morning class, in what we call the murli, I get the right thing. And so there's like, it's a partnership sort of thing. And so the feeling of closeness, a feeling of respect, and of course I have to try to see me always as God sees me, and not as I think I am. And I have to clean out my vision of others, so that I'm seeing others also as how they really are, and not how my ego says that they are. And so these things are, it's a constant, I guess, companionship in the sense of constancy. There's some constant backup, constant support for the things that I have to do. In that sense. So I feel very confident.
So did this companionship help you in conquering your ego? Did you ever face any situations where your ego...
Oh, I think all of us do. Because the thing about the ego is that it's very blind. And of course, if there's an attack of ego, you don't know about it until later. And so you can't realize, you think you're completely right, but in fact something didn't work, and something got spoiled, and so therefore you make up, okay, in this sort of situation, the conditions like this, next time I'll try to be more real. And I think the opposite of ego is not, you could say it's humility, but I think it's more reality. ego is completely false in a sense. It gives you a completely distorted image of things and of people. For example, all of us have been labelled in our lives by this one or the other one, but no one is the label, right? If you ask people, have you been labelled? Yes. Are you those labels? No. So how many people that I keep in my inner gallery with their, with their image and the label, and this one label, this one's a difficult person, this one's a horrible person, this one's, very quiet. Those labels are completely false. And they're all ego-based. My own judgment, I'm better or worse. Because ego has two sides, yeah? I'm better than others and I'm worse than others. Now, if I remove all of the labels, I'm real. People are what they are, without any labels. And I have to try to see that. And that's the effort.
And now that you are a coordinator, what difference do you find in the way you serve? Like before you were working and running the center, but now you're full-time running the center.
Yeah.
So
Centers, 120 actually.
Centers.
Yeah.
So do you find it a better way of serving, or
I think one of the things is that a lot of the very close contacts, you see, it's very different when you visit somebody. Let's say you visit some important person and you give them a present or give them toli or sweets, and you give them some literature, and then they look at it and they put it in the drawer, right? And then you're probably one of 20 people who visited those important people in the last 2 weeks, right? But if you're working side by side with people, and they see you under the same sort of situations that they're in, and they see how you react very clearly and concisely and very calmly to the same sort of pressures that they're under, then they get really impressed. Because what people expect from spiritual beings, they expect spiritual people to be, on the moon or,
right.
Away, head shaved, living in a cave somewhere, or not useful. Now, if you can be very professionally accurate and at the same time very spiritual, they become very impressed. So I would say that, that sort of the work that we have to do in an organizational sense is not different from any other corporation in a sense. The difference is that it's a family, a spiritual family. And in Brahma Kumaris we can't do that because people are volunteers. So you have to really make efforts in the relationship side to make people, to feel their own importance and feel included. And so it's really helping people to bring out the best in them. That's the big, I would say, leadership, and I've had a lot of experience in that field. I did a pilot for the second biggest telecommunications company in the world, and it's now the main course that the top executives run in the corporate university that they have on leading high-performing teams. That was the name of the course. So I developed that course. It's still there at the university. But you can't use that sort of logic with Brahma Kumaris volunteers. It's a different sort of art, I would say. Because that ethic of hiring and firing is not there, So in the Brahma Kumaris we have to inspire. It's not about hiring and firing. We have to inspire, and that's the challenge.
But rather, will it be difficult if I want to, seeing the professional stress and the pressure that people commonly face, will it be difficult for me to take out time for spiritual practice, say meditation, say going deeper in the knowledge?
I can say that my own life was, I've been always extremely busy. My agenda, if people see my agenda, it's crazy, traveling so much and all over the place. So it's not that I've had, let's say, a restful life, but at the same time, it's not really a question of making time out, it's a question of changing attitude, If you divide your life into, how much sleep you have, how much work you do, how much study you have to do, and so on, these are the basic things. And if you want to improve the quality of your life, it's not something else, it's not time out. Just doing the basic things of working, living, eating, sleeping, bathing, buying, and so on. Sitting in the traffic lights, In the cities these days, in São Paulo, that's where I live, you will spend 2 hours in the traffic every day if you go to work. And so it's not about I need some extra time. No, how do I improve the consciousness that I have when I work, when I eat, when I sleep, when I'm sitting in the traffic, and so on. That's the challenge. So it's not that we become two people. I'm a spiritual person when I'm not at work, and then I'm that dichotomy, that shouldn't be there. So I'm one person, and if I become centered, I interact with people at work from that center. Then I see my family, I interact, I do what I have to do. Now I'm walking in the street, but I haven't become a different person. Otherwise it becomes very schizophrenic. I'm spiritual when I meditate, and then suddenly I get back into the traffic and the confusion at work, and I become another being. No, that's very schizophrenic. No, I have to spiritualize everything, and it's an attitude rather than time.
And you said from your childhood you were spiritually inclined, very philosophical. But say if I'm a person who is a firm believer of science, I just believe in whatever is proved by science, then will this spiritual knowledge be difficult for me to accept? Or
well, I think it's a different order of logic. You can't prove physically with physical instruments by the existence of the human soul, but you can prove it by inference. You can prove it by experience. You can have your own experience. So the invitation is that it's a different order of logic. There are things that science cannot explain and never will be able to explain because there are different levels of existence. There's if you want to go towards the deeper type of science, you have to look at quantum mechanics, because quantum mechanics is the beginning. It's where physical reality and the understanding of it ends and the spirituality starts. Because one of the implications of quantum mechanics is that our thinking orders reality, There's a new theory around which is called biocentrism, which is completely the opposite of, the physical vision of the world and the universe is the physical world and universe existed, and then life came, and we have to adapt ourselves to all of this physical arrangement. Biocentrism, which is a very, very new science, tells us that no, life exists, and physical reality adapts to life. And I mean, that's equally valid, And if you explore that, it makes much more sense than us trying to adapt ourselves into a physical universe that's existed forever, and we've only existed for, human life anyway, they say, has only existed for 100,000 years. That's what they say. But what we understand here is that no, life has always been around, and the physical universe has always been around, and they've been performing a dance forever. So I would suggest to the people who are scientifically inclined to ask more questions, They don't have, if you go to the Big Bang, for example, okay, wonderful, but what was before that? What caused it? They can't answer. And if, they measure the universe expanding, and they say, oh, this is because there was a Big Bang way back in the past, billions of years ago. No. And if the universe is just expanding and contracting, how would you know? So there are a lot of things that a scientifically inclined person could ask.
So this knowledge can be applicable to all people from all walks of life, from all professions.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you want to enjoy life, for example, okay, you want respect. You want respect. You have to give respect, right? And we all know that from childhood. If you want joy from from your work, you have to do your work joyfully. If you want peace, you have to create conditions for that to happen. You can't have the golden egg unless you have that sort of goose who can lay golden eggs. You can't have the peace, the love and the happiness unless you do something to produce it.
So yet another episode with Brother Ken, and we have shared on this platform so many experiences that we ourselves can relate to, because it is what he himself practically experienced. Hoping that these experiences do inspire you to question yourself on these lines and start this spiritual journey, and hoping you will join us in the next episode. We will be taking leave now. Thank you, brother, for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, viewers, for joining us in this episode. Have a good day.